All right, so let's see if the audio is okay. Yeah, perfect. How's it going, everyone? I hope you all are doing great. I'm Dorkradu, and I'm back with another daily analysis. As always, I'm gonna start off with the Forex analysis, and to be more exact, I'm gonna start off with AUD USD, where we can see that we have this bullish opportunity running in some very nice profits literally as we speak. TP1 was smashed on both entries, and the reason I took this setup is because I saw a very aggressive break towards the upside. I saw that the daily and the 4-hour were both bullish on the trader graph, a unmitigated order block that was lining up perfectly with the point of interest, and lastly, a pretty corrective pullback as well. Okay, so now all we gotta do is just wait and see how this setup will fully unfold. On USD CAD, we have a bearish setup running in some profits as we speak. TP1 was smashed on both entries over here as well. The reason I took this setup is because I saw a textbook break towards the downside, was a pretty aggressive one. I saw a unmitigated order block that was lining up perfectly with the point of interest, the 4-hour bearish on the trader graph, and I also saw a very nice and corrective pullback towards our fire zone. Next up, we have Euro CHF with a very beautiful sniper entry on this bullish setup. Right here, as we can see, we had a very nice and impulsive break towards the upside. After that, I was able to identify this unmitigated order block that was lining up perfectly with the area of interest, the 4-hour bullish on the trader graph. And the thing I like the most about this setup is the pullback. As we can see, the pullback was a extremely corrective one, and it literally tapped in our first entry and went straight to the upside, smashed TP1 and TP2, and now it is approaching the final target. On AUD CHF, we have a bullish setup that hasn't triggered yet, okay, but it's still valid. We have a aggressive break towards the upside, a unmitigated order block lining up perfectly with the area of interest. The trader graph is fully bullish, which is great, and the pullback so far looks also very nice and corrective. On Euro AUD, we have a bearish setup, a continuation of this downwards push with this impulsive break right here that took price lower. Before the break, we swept liquidity as well with this fake out towards the upside, and after the break, I was able to identify this unmitigated order block that is lining up perfectly with the area of interest as well as with this bearish trader order block. The trader graph is fully bearish, as we can clearly see right here, and it is safe to say that the pullback so far looks pretty corrective. Okay, so that is very ideal. Next up, we have Euro CAD with another bearish opportunity. We have a aggressive break, a unmitigated order block lining up with the point of interest, as well as with this bearish trader order block. The 4-hour is bearish on the trader graph, and so far the pullback has been definitely a very nice and corrective one. Moving forward, we have USD CHF with a bullish opportunity. Okay, we have a pretty textbook, an aggressive break towards the upside caused by this bullish leg. We then have a fair value gap lining up with the area of interest, as well as with these two bullish trader order blocks. The 4-hour is bullish on the trader graph, and now the last thing that we need to wait for is to see whether we can get a corrective pullback. On GBP CAD, we have a potential bearish setup, a very aggressive break towards the downside caused by this bearish leg. Liquidity was swept beforehand as well. We have a unmitigated order block lining up with the point of interest, as well as with this bearish trader order block. The 4-hour is bearish on the trader graph, and it is safe to say that so far the pullback has been a very corrective one. On AUD NZD, we have a bullish setup, a bullish opportunity. Right here, we broke structure very aggressively to the upside. Imbalance was left behind. We have this unmitigated order block lining up perfectly with the area of interest. The 4-hour is bullish on the trader graph, and now the last thing that we need to wait for is a corrective pullback. GBP USD with a bearish setup. We have a very nice continuation of this downwards push. With this aggressive break towards the downside, we have a unmitigated order block lining up perfectly with the point of interest, as well as with this bearish trader order block. The 4-hour is also bearish on the trader graph, and now of course the final thing that we need to wait for is a corrective pullback. On CHF JPY, we have a bullish setup. Right here we can see we have a very aggressive break towards the upside caused by this bullish leg. Daily and the 4-hour are both bullish on the trader graph. We have this unmitigated order block lining up perfectly with the area of interest, as well as with this bullish trader order block. And now we need to see how price will pull back towards it, if of course it will pull back towards it. On USD JPY, another bullish setup, a continuation of this very aggressive uptrend with this bullish break of structure right here. Daily and the 4-hour are both bullish on the graph. We have this very tiny fair value gap lining up perfectly with the point of interest, as well as with this bullish trader order block. And now the last thing that we need to wait for is a corrective pullback. On GBP AUD, we have a good looking bearish opportunity, a continuation of this downward push with this bearish break of structure right here that took price lower and left imbalance behind. The trader graph is fully bearish. We also have a unmitigated order block lining up perfectly with the area of interest, as well as with this bearish trader order block. And to be honest, so far the pullback has been very corrective. As we can see, price is still under some big bearish pressure. On AUD CAD, we have a bullish setup right here. We broke structure aggressively to the upside. Before the break, we swept liquidity as well. Then after the break, I was able to identify this unmitigated order block that, as we can see, is lining up perfectly with the point of interest. The trader graph is fully bullish, and so far the pullback has been pretty corrective too, which is great. We want to see a continuation of that. On Euro NZD, another bullish setup. Here we have a very textbook and aggressive break towards the upside. We have a unmitigated order block lining up perfectly with the point of interest, as well as with this bullish trader order block. The 4-hour is bullish on the trader graph, and now the last thing that we need to wait for is, as always, a corrective pullback. And lastly, for our Forex analysis, we have AUD JPY with a textbook bullish setup. Right here, we have a continuation of this very aggressive uptrend with this bullish break of structure that took price higher and left imbalance behind. The trader graph is fully bullish. We have this unmitigated order block lining up perfectly with the point of interest. And now, of course, we need to wait for a corrective pullback. And yeah, on that note, we'll end today's Forex analysis right here. As always, if there's any other questions, make sure to reach out on Discord. Now I will go over today's metals analysis, starting off with gold, where unfortunately we don't have a setup right now. Okay, gold is looking pretty bearish. However, I couldn't identify a bearish range, which is totally okay. We'll just leave the chart as is and come back to it later. On silver, however, we do have a valid bearish setup. Right here, we broke structure very impulsively to the downside with this bearish leg. After the break, I was able to identify this unmitigated order block that, as we can see, is lining up perfectly with the area of interest, as well as with this bearish trader order block. The 4-hour is bearish on the trader graph, and so far the pullback has been very nice and corrective. So we definitely want to see a continuation of that. And yeah, that's that for the metals analysis. As always, if there's any other questions, make sure to reach out on Discord. And now I will go over today's indices analysis, starting off with US 30, where we have a bearish opportunity. Right here we swept liquidity, and afterwards we broke structure to the downside very impulsively, as we can see. We have an unmitigated order block lining up perfectly with the point of interest, and so far the pullback looks pretty nice and corrective as well. On SPX, we have another bearish opportunity. Right here we have a bearish shift in momentum. We have a liquidity sweep followed by a very impulsive break towards the downside. We have this unmitigated order block lining up perfectly with the area of interest. And it is very safe to say that the pullback has been extremely corrective as well, because as we can see, price is still under some very big bearish pressure. And lastly, on Nasdaq, for our indices analysis, we have another bearish shift in momentum, liquidity sweep, followed by a very impulsive break towards the downside. We have an unmitigated order block lining up with the premium area of this bearish range. And so far, pullback looks very nice and corrective as well. And yeah, that's about it for today's indices analysis. As always, if there's any other questions, make sure to reach out on Discord. And now, lastly, we'll go over the crypto analysis, starting off with Bitcoin, where we have a very clear bearish opportunity. Right here, we have a continuation of this downtrend with this very impulsive bearish break that took price lower and left imbalance behind. We have this fair value gap lining up with the premium area of this bearish range. The 4-hour is bearish on the trader graph, and the pullback has been very, very corrective as well. So yeah, definitely a good looking setup. On Ethereum, we have another setup very, very similar to Bitcoin. Aggressive break, point of interest. We have a fair value gap right here. Above it, we have a bearish trader order block as well. The 4-hour bearish on the graph, and very, very corrective pullback so far. Okay, definitely a super valid setup. Dogecoin, once again, looking pretty similar to the other two. Very impulsive break towards the downside. We then have this beautiful unmitigated order block lining up perfectly with the point of interest. Above it, we have a bearish trader order block as well. The daily is bearish on the trader graph, and once again, the pullback has been very, very nice and corrective. On XRP, another bearish setup, looking once again very similar, very aggressive break, fair value gap lining up perfectly with the point of interest. Pullback once again looking very corrective. We have a bearish trader order block above the fair value gap as well. And the trader graph is fully bearish too, which is again a great added confidence. And lastly, we have Solana with a bullish opportunity. Okay, the only different crypto pair. Right here, we have a bullish shift in momentum. We swept liquidity to the downside, and immediately after that, we broke structure to the upside pretty impulsively with this bullish leg. We have this unmitigated order block lining up with the area of interest. The daily is bullish on the trader graph, and so far this looks like a very nice and corrective pullback. And yeah, on that note, we'll end today's crypto as well as the overall daily analysis right here. As always, I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you all on the dork side. Take care.